Hi, I'm State Representative Ryan Mackenzie, and welcome to another episode of Legislative Report. Today I'm on location at Cetronia Ambulance Corps in South Whitehall Township, and I'm joined by Larry Wirsch, the CEO of Cetronia Ambulance Corps. Thanks for having us, Larry.
Thank you for coming here and learning about our company.
Absolutely. Well, why don't we start? It's a long and storied history here in the area, great traditions. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Cetronia Ambulance Corps was formed by a bunch of community-minded citizens in 1955, and their objective really was to just make sure that they could provide care and get people to the hospital, because at the time all the ambulances were hospital-based, and sometimes it took a long time to get an ambulance out here to South Whitehall or even further out into the country. So they formed the Ambulance Corps as a 501c3 nonprofit with a bunch of community-minded volunteers, grew it where it stayed fully volunteer up into the early 80s, and then we started to supplement it with employees simply because the moms were starting to go to work, and we had to make sure that we could continue to maintain the level of service that we have today. So to do that, we had to supplement it with employees. So we still have a good group of volunteers, about 50 of them, and also about 120 full-time employees. So we're very proud of our history, and we continue to grow from one ambulance up to 19 ambulances today and 12 wheelchair vans and a couple special operations vehicles.
Great. Well, you provide a terrific service for the community. And now, what is the service area that you actually cover? It's not just Cetronia.
No, we cover about 8 or 9 municipalities. South Whitehall obviously is where our main operations base is. We also have a satellite station up in Mackenzie Township, co-located with the fire department. Whitehall Township, Copley Borough, Western Salisbury, portions of Weisenberg, Low Hill, and you know, we are here to continue to serve the community throughout multiple municipalities, as well as back up other ambulance services on mutual aid calls.
That's terrific. And so what are some of the more frequent or common calls or things that you respond to?
Well, obviously we're rooted in the 911 services, and we perform about 20,000 911 calls per year. And then our non-emergency transportation, taking people to doctor's offices and as well as in between the hospitals and to dialysis and things like that, plus our wheelchair business as well. So our typical calls can range from full cardiac arrest or rescue calls to simply taking somebody to a doctor's appointment that needs to get there and they're not capable of going in a car or walking on their own.
Great. Well, you're clearly very knowledgeable on this, Larry. A lot of students that I interact with, I'm always interested in providing them with career awareness. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved in this field.
Well, it's a great career for particularly the young people to start out in. I started when I was 15 and basically grew into the system by watching Emergency on TV at the time, where most of the people in my age group probably got interested in it. We volunteered because we wanted to give back to the community, and then I began as an advanced first aider. We didn't have EMTs at the time, so we certainly didn't have paramedics. Then we grew into, as time went on, the EMT programs came. I took that course, and then the paramedic course in the early 80s when I decided to make this my career. And I came to Cetronia in 1982, first as a volunteer EMT, volunteer paramedic. Then I became an operations supervisor. I was recruited from the city of Allentown as a paramedics at the time, and then director of operations, and now today I'm the CEO.
Great. Well, that's an important distinction, is some of those different fields that you mentioned in there, an EMT and a paramedic. Tell us about that difference.
Well, the EMT can offer basic life-saving skills. Obviously, everybody we have here can perform CPR, but the EMTs can do bandaging and splinting and some of the moderate emergency type situations, and then the paramedics do the advanced levels. They're doing 12-lead EKGs in homes now. They're doing ventilators. They're administering advanced medicines, narcotics, all kinds of heart cardiology drugs, and literally what we do in the field means the difference between life and death. When I first started, a lot of cardiac arrest patients didn't have a chance simply because we didn't have the technologies and the wisdom we do today. And now many of the cardiac arrest patients or the heart attack patients used to have severe damage from heart attacks. They're not having that as often anymore simply because we're getting to them quickly. and we're able to administer so many more things today than we were back then.
Great. And so for people who might want to get involved in this field, what type of training do they need, or what type of schooling should they be seeking out?
Well, we at Cetronia, we invite youth people. We allow 14-year-old children to come go through our emergency medical responder program, which is the earliest age that we can have people join us. We train them here in-house, so they can come here with literally no training at all. We teach them CPR, emergency medical responder. We invite the youth in every year to participate in the programs, and they can actually go out in the ambulances, determine whether it's the right fit for them. They typically will progress into EMT over time. As they get into high school, they will realize that once they're 16 or 18, they want to pay for the gas. So they'll typically transition over to part-time paid. When they go to college, they work for us part-time, and many of them come back as paramedics, or we send them through scholarship programs that we offer internally to become paramedics, and many of them go on to nursing and physicians as well.
Great.
Well, so it's a great career ladder.
What we'll do is we'll put the information for Cetronia Ambulance Corps on the screen, and people can visit the website and learn more about the Ambulance Corps, and also contact you if they're interested in getting involved.
That would be excellent. Would love to have them.
We're gonna head from here, which is the old location, the existing location, over to your new facility. So thank you again for inviting us here, and we're gonna go check that out. Thanks again, Larry. Larry, well, here we are at the new home of Cetronia Ambulance Corps. We can see that it's still a work in progress, but what I saw coming in was just incredible, Larry. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the new facility and why you guys needed to move here?
Well, our existing building, quite frankly, we just outgrew it. We have 19 ambulances and 12 paratransit vehicles, a staff of 120 full-timers. And the bottom line is we couldn't get all of our vehicles into the garage anymore. We have a lease facility out in Fogelsville. We have a number of substations, and it's really time for us to bring everybody together under one roof so that we can take advantage of the efficiencies of having everybody consolidated in one central location to be deployed throughout our community.
Sure, and there were some other considerations as well, technologically related and Homeland Security. What were those issues?
Well, our existing facility is not a hardened structure. We don't have a lot of security or cameras or any of the things. Really, access to the building is somewhat open, although we do have, obviously, security. This building allows us to have cameras, the secure access, and the ability to control the entry and exit points of the building in the event that we need to either lock it down quickly or open it up quickly, as well as allow the community to come in and do their education here, so that we can open different parts of the building, yet keep the main operations piece totally secure for safety.
Absolutely. Well, you moved right down the road from the old location. We're still on Broadway here in South Whitehall, but as you mentioned, much larger facility. How many square feet is this new location? This
new facility is 68,000 square feet. Obviously, a lot of it is garage to house all of our ambulances inside, as well as through the partnership with Lehigh County. We have their emergency operations equipment and their emergency response special rescue teams here in this facility as well.
Great. And so you mentioned one of those partnerships with Lehigh County. There are going to be a number of services co-located here. Who else is going to be located?
Well, the important thing for us is that we regionalize and regionally cooperate. So we have Lehigh County's forensics facility. The coroner's office will be here. Being more efficient, have a nice new high-tech facility to do what they need to do, as well as the DA's office will have their ballistics testing people here, and the community, the Ambulance Corps, full operations, full admin team, our billing offices, and our ability to expand and actually develop synergies between all of our people so that we can train together, so that we have a better community response and a regional response to emergencies here in our community today.
Well, that's fantastic. And you also talk about the life cycle of some of these cases. For instance, a crime that happens. Tell us how it would move through the life cycle of a case here in this one building.
Well, obviously, if we have the unfortunate incident where there's a murder somewhere in the valley, the forensics facility would take care of the victim, and they would remove the necessary evidence. They can actually do some of that testing right here in this facility, do the ballistics testing if there's bullets within the body or if there's bullets on the scene, they can do that here. And then, of course, from that transition, hopefully solve crimes quicker,
Sure.
As well as our ability to train together, to learn from each other how to protect scenes, to make sure that when EMS is called and we get to the scene of a crime, that our folks know what the forensics people are expecting, what the DA's office is expecting. So it just makes sense to have everybody work together. Even on the special rescue teams, we may be able to help them as well and train with them so that we get a better understanding of how each other's operations work today.
Well, that's great. That's a big improvement over what it had been previously, where sometimes things, evidence had to be shipped out to Harrisburg and then come back to the Lehigh Valley, slowing the process down and probably allowing more room for error as well. So it sounds like it's a big improvement here.
It's a huge improvement, and obviously, because the community owns us, it's important that we do everything we can to be more efficient, more effective in what we do, so that we can continue to thrive and do better for our community today.
Good. Well, the room that we're sitting in is going to be the education center.
Correct.
Tell us about what types of things you envision going on here.
Well, one of the things that we do today is we do a tremendous amount of CPR training, advanced levels of first aid, and all types of different community programs, as well as train our own staff. So this education center will be open to the community. We bring in the Boy Scouts on a regular basis today in a basement level that's not ADA accessible. This entire building is ADA accessible, so anybody that wants to get educated in perhaps CPR or babysitting first aid, basic first aid levels, they can do it right here in this facility. And oftentimes for community service groups, we do that free of charge, just as our way of giving back to the community for supporting us for all these years.
One of the great new parts of this facility is the communication center. Tell us a little bit about that room.
The communication center is effectively the heartbeat of our organization. The technology alone that will be in that facility, in that particular piece of our facility, will allow us to track vehicles, recall calls, and actually play them back through computerized systems to really make sure that we're always taking the right routes, track our vehicles through AVL, GPS, use the data that's generated in that communication center alone to help us be more effective to our response to community 911 systems. It will help us process things, it'll help us replay things, and in the event that there is a crime, it'll allow us to actually take the recordings that are captured here and give them to the necessary entities to help solve those crimes as well.
Earlier we talked about volunteering with Cetronia Ambulance, and there are lots of different opportunities besides those that go on as an EMT or a paramedic. What else are you looking for here at the Cetronia Ambulance?
Well, at Cetronia, obviously our volunteer roots have always been in community-minded citizens. So we want to bring in people, if they just want to give back to the community in any way. We always have opportunities for people that don't necessarily want to be in the back of an ambulance because it's just not something they want to do. We have the need for people to help us with some of our billing operations and our envelope stuffing. We have certainly the ability to clean ambulances, the ability to help stock ambulances, different community functions, education. We use a lot of volunteers to help educate the public. Obviously they have to be certified, but we'll help them get certified so that we can continue to grow the organization, grow our volunteer roots, as well as serve the community to the best possibility that we can.
Great. Well, that's fantastic. Larry, I want to thank you again for showing us Cetronia Ambulance and really appreciate everything you do for the community as CEO of Cetronia. You're somebody who knows it inside and out, coming up through the ranks, and the service to the community that you provide is just really fantastic. So I want to thank you again for that, and wish you the best of luck in all the years ahead at this new facility here.
Thank you so much, and would love to have everybody in the community come visit us in September when we plan to do a community open house and ribbon cutting celebration.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Larry.
Thank you.
And for those of you watching at home, I want to thank you for joining us today, seeing Cetronia Ambulance Corps, and would encourage you to join us again on a future episode of Legislative Report. Hi, and welcome to Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Ryan Mackenzie of the 134th District in Berks and Lehigh counties. As a member of the newly formed Manufacturing Caucus in the House, I've been able to travel around the state and tour various manufacturing facilities, learning firsthand the challenges of not only running a business in Pennsylvania, but staying alive in a highly competitive global marketplace. Recently, I and other lawmakers had the opportunity to tour the Arecelor Mittal facilities in Steelton, within a few miles of the state capitol. This company specializes in making steel rails for railroads and certain types of cranes. They're world-renowned for the quality of their products. And also, the Mittal facility in Steelton actually has ties to the Lehigh Valley, as it was once part of Bethlehem Steel. Products made at this location include standard and head-hardened steel railroad rails and crane rails, specialty blooms, specialty quality bars, and large diameter forging quality ingots. Join me now as we tour this manufacturing facility.
Welcome here to Steelton. I've been here for 27 years now. I've got almost 50 years in the business. This plant has a very rich history. Since 1867, we've been operating the steel plant, so it's the longest continuously operated steel plant in the country. And it's been on the forefront of technology since that time. We had the first Bessemer furnace here. We had the first open hearth furnace here. The electrics came early on in the electric furnace industry, and right now we're basically into an industry which is a big forging industry that Corey mentioned. We make some very, very rich forgings and steels for the government application, electric power generation, those kind of things. So Steelton has been here a long time. It's got a history of very fine people, very adaptable people. A lot of change over time, ups and downs, but you know the industry as well as I do if you've been around a while. The products we have here, the anchor business is rail. In fact, we dug one up the other day that was in one of our projects from the 1880s, they said. Must have been a stamp on it. I'm going to go find that. I want to see it because that's very, very old and probably an iron rail versus a steel rail. The original rails in this country were iron, very soft, malleable, and finally when we got the Bessemer and the open hearth, we got into steel rail, which in some cases is programmed to last 20 to 30 years, depending on where it's put in track. So it's a very durable product, but that's what we do here. In 1994, we modernized this plant. We put $80 million into it for a new steelmaking, what you'll see out there, new steelmaking equipment, and our railhead hardening equipment was put in '94. So we spent almost $80 million then. And this plant has always gotten attention. Right now we have 3 projects in the plant. I think about a little over $40 million of investment still going in the plant, and things we earn because we perform. And that's the people and the business we're in. Besides rail today, by the way, rail has changed from sink water steel, which is if it's gray and sinks in water, you can sell it. But that's no longer true. It's a very premium product. It's like bearing quality almost in terms of what's required to meet customer specifications today. So this plant lives on it differentiates itself from rebar, structural, those low quality. We don't make that here. We make nothing but high quality. And we've been doing that, and we still get the investment climate and get it assigned to us. We earn it, by the way. We work pretty hard at being sure that we're a productive group, profitable group, and we define the investment on that basis.
We make about 400 grades of steel roughly out of 13 basic recipes. So at the ladle furnace, we take from the 13 recipes and we can modify to get one of the 400 or so grades of steel that we make as a finished product. As we're going to go to the caster, we're going to save everybody the labor of climbing up the 5 flights of stairs to get up onto the cast floor. We'll go to what we call the run out. You'll get to see the very large as cast bloom coming out of the caster. It's 14.5 inches by 23.5 inches in cross section. It's the biggest in the industry. We call it a jumbo bloom. If you look at that as cast bloom, if you would cut a 1-inch sliver off of that as cast bloom, that weighs about 100 pounds. All right. Most of when we make rail, we cut a bloom to a specified length that it produces 4 rails about 90 feet long from one as cast bloom. To get back up to rolling temperature about 2100 degrees takes 5 to 6 hours in a soaking pit set at about 2400 degrees Fahrenheit. If you let that bloom go cold, it takes about 14 hours to get it hot.
And a lot of energy.
And a whole lot of natural gas, right? That's exactly right. The new reheat furnace is a walking beam style furnace. It'll take that cold bloom and get it up to temperature in about 4 hours. A hot bloom is just about a rock skipper through the furnace. We're really looking forward to the commissioning of the big reheat furnace. At the same time, we've got a smaller, what we call an equalization furnace, which is nearly ready for commissioning. To replace 2 1900-something vintage piles of brick with natural gas burners in them. One of the things you're going to see here as we work our way up through, steelmaking is quite new, you know, as things go. Steelmaking in the caster, the scrap plant 98. There's one major investment in the rolling mill's head hardening, which is the same time as steelmaking was put in the 94s. But the mill stands that we use to produce the rail, the high quality rail that we produce today, were designed and made in 1912. We've got a couple of upgrades in the 44, in the 50s and 60s, where we got variable position of the top roll so we can make a variety of sections of product. In the 44, we can take that gigantic as cast bloom and roll it all the way down to a 6-inch by 6-inch square billet, and just about any rectangle or square shape in between. What you got, what's behind me is the melting furnace. That's where all the scrap goes in, and we melt it down into 150 tons of liquid metal. That siren that you heard just a minute ago, we take a sample in the liquid, we measure the temperature, we measure the carbon, and measure the oxygen. If they're within the range that we need, we tap the heat. Typically, the liquid is tapped out of the furnace right at 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. All right. We have a tapping sequence in the furnace that's an automatic tapping sequence, which is unique in the industry. What happens is in the bottom of the furnace there's a tap hole. The furnace tilts, the tap hole opens automatically, and then the liquid starts to transfer into a ladle underneath. As the weight goes into the ladle, the furnace will continue to tilt until we get within 5,000 pounds of the aim tap weight. Then the furnace quickly rotates back to a negative direction, stopping the tap. That's one way to avoid slag into the liquid. If you take furnace slag and put it in a ladle, you have to dump that off. It's very difficult to finish the heat chemistry-wise with furnace slag in the liquid. All right, slag is a necessary product that we make. It's a purifier, if you will. It pulls some of the oxides, the residual elements that we can oxidize out into the slag. It also insulates the liquid, and it insulates the arc so that the arc stays submerged. It doesn't jump out against the structure. That furnace is 100% water cooled, so there's water panels all the way around and in the roof. We pump about 21 million gallons of water a day through our cooling system in the furnace when we run. All right, so it's critical that we don't arc against that steel tube, put a hole in it, and then start putting water on top of liquid. All right. One of the rules in the industry is you can put water on hot steel, but you can't put hot steel on water, right? Because once you trap it, it expands. So he'll pick that bucket up, he'll go over top of the furnace, and then he'll lower the main hoist, which the bottom of the bucket will then open and the scrap will fall out. The red glowing part that's in the middle there is the electrode. That's what actually creates the arc. That's a graphite, like the graphite in a spark plug. It's kind of the same concept, just much larger. Once the crane is out of the way, you'll see the roof swing back on, the electrode will start to lower, and then the arc will start again. The other thing that'll happen is there's a duct that's laid over, that rotates up and matches to that big hole, and that's what draws the off dust and gas out to the baghouse for filtering to keep the particulate out of the air. As you can see, we're running 2 strands of the caster. You get an idea of the size of the bloom that we produce here in Steelton. That bloom coming out of the bottom is still roughly about 1400 degrees Fahrenheit. While it looks cold on the sides, you can see the end is still quite red. All right? For the most part, heat goes into the caster up top, transfers into a tundish, and then is distributed through all 3 strands. It takes about 4 hours from the start of time at which it starts to cast till it runs through. We run about 16, 18 inches a minute on the caster. Right? So it looks like it's barely moving, but it's such a big piece, it takes a long time for it to solidify. Those blooms are about 18,000 pounds each. From here, we sell some product in the as-cast form, but the majority gets rolled.
Well, gentlemen, real quickly, this is what we call our screw-down computer. What this does, it tells the rolls here what I'm here adjusting. It tells them exactly where I want to go here. Right now, I'm rolling a Norris cylinder product, 7 3/4 square. And then when it comes in on the tracking system, as you see, this is Bloom, Cast Bloom 06R. It's number 13 for ours. And then when it drops down, it will tell this computer, and then we will go from there. This bloom here is approximately, we roll Norris about 2,400. Real quickly, my left hand is what we call controlling the canal, the riverside guard in my left hand. Right hand is the canal guard. And right up top here, we have what we call kick-ups. And then through a series of moves, as you will see as I progress, this is the way we proceed. We generally take no more than a 2-inch bite. If you watch it, each time I progress, each time I make a pass, it's generally going to take about 2 inches.
So if he would put it into the wrong pass, he might be programmed to go in through the 12-inch pass, taking a 2-inch bite. But if he goes into another pass, he might be taking a 4-inch bite, and then he breaks a $100,000 set of rolls.
So
This is one of the more critical jobs that we have. Don pretty much runs the entire machine for where we come up and over across. He's got 1 or 2 computer monitors there you can see. He's looking at, well, you got 1, 2, 3 monitors that display temperatures at various locations. So he's got to manage all the data that he gets from the various computer monitors and then actually use it to make decisions to run the machine.
That's all the time we have for this month's program. I'm State Representative Ryan Mackenzie. If you have any questions about what you've just seen, or if I can help with any state-related government concerns, please contact me at my district office or through my website or Facebook. That information will appear in a moment. Thanks for watching, and please join me next time for a Legislative Report.